All right, let's just jump right in. Picking a tech stack in 2025? Wow. It feels less like making a simple choice and more like trying to find your way through a crazy, ever-changing maze, right? There are just so many paths. Do you go with what's hot right now or what's the most powerful, or maybe just what gets the job done? It's a huge decision, one that can really define your whole project. So today, we're going to go on a little journey together to map out this landscape and figure out the best path for you. And you can't start a journey without a map, right? Well, this is ours. This roadmap lays out the whole path, all the way from the front end through the back end to getting your app out into the world. We're going to use this as our guide to really understand the big decisions you'll have to make. Think of it as our treasure map for building amazing, modern web applications.
So our very first stop is this massive crossroads, the front end. This is all about what your user actually sees and touches. It's how they interact with your creation. And believe me, it is a critical choice. You've got some incredibly powerful options here that are going to shape that entire user experience.
Now, when you get to this crossroads, you're going to see three main roads stretching out in front of you. First up, you've got React. I mean, it's the undisputed heavyweight champion, the dominant force in the whole ecosystem. Then there's Angular, which is kind of the go-to for huge, complex apps, the enterprise choice. And finally, you have Vue, the scrappy challenger that's just winning over developers left and right with its super friendly approach.
So let's look at the first two paths. React versus Angular really boils down to a core philosophy. React is like a giant box of Legos. It gives you incredible flexibility to build whatever you want, however you want. But all that freedom means there can be a steeper learning curve, especially with newer ideas like server components that are changing how the front end and back ends work together. Angular, on the other hand, is what we call batteries included. It's more like a pre-built model kit. Everything you need is in the box, with a clear structure, which gives you a super stable foundation. And that's exactly why big companies love it.
And that brings us to Vue, the nimble contender in this race. If Angular is the heavyweight, Vue is definitely the lightweight champ. A huge difference you'll notice is something called bundle size. That's just how much code a user has to download to see your site. Vue's is way smaller, which means pages load faster. That focus on performance, plus its amazing documentation, makes it an absolute dream for getting things built quickly.
All right, we've made our choice at the front-end crossroads. Now, our map is leading us deeper, right into the heart of the application, the back end. But here's the thing. Before we can even think about picking an engine, we have to learn the rules of the road. We need to understand how the front end and back end actually talk to each other. And for that, we need to talk about REST APIs.
Think of this as the foundation. REST is basically the official rulebook for web communication. It's not a specific technology you install, but more of an architectural style, a set of principles that makes sure all these different services can talk to each other in a predictable, scalable way. It's what makes the web work. The absolute central idea in REST is the resource. Now, that sounds fancy, but it's super simple. A resource is just anything you want to expose through your API. It could be a user, a product, a photo, a blog post, you name it. It's the what, the noun we're interacting with. It's a simple idea, but incredibly powerful.
And here's the cool part. Every single one of those resources gets its own unique address. We call it a URI. Just like a postal address tells the mail carrier exactly where to deliver a package, this URI tells our application exactly where to find, say, user number 123. No confusion, no ambiguity. Just a crystal clear address for everything.
Okay, so we've got the what, the resource, and we've got the where, the URI. Now we just need the how. How do we interact with it? Well, that's where HTTP methods come in. Just think of them as simple action verbs. You use get to read or retrieve something. You use post to create something new. And you use delete to, well, to delete it. They're the simple, clear actions you can perform on any resource at its address.
So, now that we know the rules of communication, it's time to choose the engine that's actually going to power our backend. This is the workhorse. This is where all the heavy lifting happens, from your business logic to talking to the database. And we've got some serious contenders to look at.
First up is Node.js with TypeScript, which has this massive advantage. You can use the same language, JavaScript or TypeScript, on both the front end and the back end. It's a huge productivity win. Then you have Go, or Golang. It is built for one thing above all else, raw performance. It is blazingly fast, which makes it perfect for building microservices that have to handle a ton of traffic. And of course, there's Python. With frameworks like FastAPI, it is still the undisputed king for anything involving AI and machine learning.
And this chart really puts that performance difference into perspective.
I mean, just look at Golang's response times. We're talking typically under 5 milliseconds. That is just another league. Now, don't get me wrong, Node.js and Python are plenty fast for most applications, but when you need to handle thousands of connections at once with the lowest possible delay, Go is the undisputed speed champion.
But hang on. Before you run off and decide to rewrite your entire application in Go, let's get practical for a second. This quote right here might just be the most important piece of advice in this whole journey. The best tool is very often the one your team already knows how to use. That familiarity, that productivity, will almost always give you better results than chasing some small theoretical performance boost with a brand new language.
Okay, we've navigated the front-end crossroads and we've picked out our back-end engine. Now it's time for the final leg of our main journey, putting it all together and actually defining our complete technology stack.
You know, what's really fascinating about web development today is how the lines between the front end and the back end are just getting blurrier and blurrier. We now have these incredibly powerful meta frameworks. Think of them as full-stack toolkits, a single package that can handle everything from the user interface right down to the database connection.
And a perfect example of this trend is something called the T3 stack. It's not just a collection of tools. It's a whole philosophy built around this idea of end-to-end type safety. Here's the magic. It combines Next.js with tools like TRPC and Prisma. So if you change something in your database, TypeScript will instantly tell you every single spot in your front-end code that you need to update. It's an incredible way to just eliminate entire classes of bugs before they even happen.
But hey, a single, all-in-one framework isn't always the right answer. If your project has really specific needs, like heavy-duty AI processing, or you need a true native mobile app, you might want to build a more specialized, multi-platform stack. You could use Python with Fast API for that AI-powered backend, Next.js for your website, and something like Flutter to build a buttery smooth native mobile experience.
And all of this brings us right back to the central question of our entire journey. With all these different paths, these different philosophies, and all these amazing tools, how do you actually choose the right one for your project?
Well, here it is, our map, simplified down into a practical decision framework. It really all comes down to your context. So if you're a learner just starting out, you should probably start with Next.js and React, because the ecosystem is just massive. If you're building a startup or an MVP, the T3 stack is going to give you incredible speed and safety. And if you're working in a large enterprise, something like Angular and Go will give you that stability and performance you need. It's all about matching the right tool to the job at hand.
Ultimately, it just all comes down to this simple truth. The quote says it all. The best stack isn't about the newest, shiniest technology or who wins the speed tests. It's about what empowers your team to build great things for your users and to keep doing it effectively for the long haul. And that brings us to the end of our journey, but I want to leave you with one last kind of provocative question. As these lines between front end and back end just keep blurring, and with AI tools writing more and more of our code for us, what do you think? In 2030, are we even going to be choosing a stack anymore? Or will the entire concept have evolved into something completely different? Definitely something to think about.